In the year 2015, Indonesia was the country of honor on the Frankfurt Book Fair. We are still in Studio 2, and if you think about Indonesia, you might think about the 17,000 tropical islands. But Indonesia is as well a country of books, and it has, for example, a strong comic scene, which you didn't know, and it has a rising part of translations, touring around the world and getting to know literature from Indonesia. So please, we like to welcome you for the next 60 minutes for a documentary and a feature about this high potential, empowering lit scene in Indonesia. Enjoy.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Sastri Sunarti. Saya peneliti dari Badan Pengembangan dan Pembinaan Bahasa. Pekerjaan saya peneliti. Tugas utama saya di sana sebagai peneliti, saya tentu saja banyak mengerjakan tentang penelitian, terutama yang berkaitan dengan kesastraan. Bidang kepakaran saya adalah tradisi lisan. Jadi saya banyak melakukan riset-riset lapangan ke daerah berkaitan dengan tradisi lisan Indonesia. Sebagai peneliti, kami memiliki alur pekerjaan, tentu saja mempersiapkan proposal, berkonsultasi dengan pakar, kemudian mengambil data lapangan. Nah, pada saat mengambil data lapangan itu merupakan pekerjaan yang seru dan menyenangkan, tapi juga sekaligus penuh dengan tantangan. Tantangannya di lapangan adalah ketika harus ke pelosok, karena penelitian tradisi lisan berarti kami bertemu dengan masyarakat tradisi, mewawancarai para ketua adat, masyarakat, tokoh masyarakat, dan masyarakat sendiri. Kadang untuk mengambil data, kami harus menyeberangi beberapa pulau kecil, kemudian naik turun gunung ke lembah, kadang-kadang harus ke desa-desa yang terpencil, yang sulit sekali akses transportasi di daerah seperti itu. Perjalanan yang paling ekstrim yang pernah saya lakukan dalam rangka mengambil data lapangan adalah ketika saya ke Desa Lindu di daerah Palu, di daerah Sulawesi Tengah. Desa Lindu merupakan wilayah daerah konservasi hutan lindung yang akses ke sana sangat sulit. Hanya bisa dicapai pada awalnya itu dengan kuda. Beruntung saya masih bisa waktu itu sudah bisa dengan sepeda motor, tapi jalannya jelek sekali, sempit dan berlumpur ketika musim hujan. Pada saat itu kami datang memang sedang musim hujan, sampai harus mendorong sepeda motor karena terjebak dalam lumpur. Dan di kanan jalan kami jurang yang sangat dalam, meter. Nah, itu yang paling ekstrim. Tapi ada juga yang lain, saya harus berjalan kaki ke kampung tua di Pulau Pantar untuk mendapatkan data lapangan. Rata-rata kami naik sepeda motor di daerah-daerah seperti itu. Nah itu bagian-bagian yang serunya. Bagian yang tidak serunya adalah ketika kami kadang-kadang kekurangan dana di lapangan karena kondisi-kondisi yang ekstrim seperti itu tadi. Ya tentu saja karena kita bekerja di bidang kita sendiri, saya sangat senang bekerja di badan bahasa. Karena itu passion saya meneliti sastra. Saya mencintai sastra dari sejak SMP dan memang ingin menjadi peneliti di bidang sastra. Dan alhamdulillah itu kesampaian. Saya diterima di pusat bahasa tahun 93 begitu saya lulus kuliah di sana. Sejak itu saya menjadi pegawai di pusat bahasa dan memilih untuk menjadi peneliti. Meski ada tawaran untuk jadi pejabat, tapi saya lebih senang menjadi peneliti karena ya menjadi peneliti itu sesuatu yang memerdekakan. Jadi kalau jadi pejabat itu Anda tahu sendirilah. Pertemuan saya dengan Alex Media itu terjadi baru-baru ini ketika saya mengikuti webinar Rentas Budaya yang diadakan oleh PT Institute dan saya mendapatkan undangan ini dari Wikimedia yang memang sudah bekerjasama dengan Badan Bahasa sejak beberapa tahun yang lalu. Nah di sana saya bertemu dengan teman-teman dari Alex Media seperti Mas Bagus. Lalu kami ngobrol bahwa di Badan Bahasa itu ada banyak sekali bahan-bahan sastra yang bisa dikerjakan bersama-sama dengan Alex Media. Kebetulan tahun depan kami memang ada program untuk pemodernan sastra, kemudian pengayaan sastra, ekranisasi sastra, atau alih wahana sastra. Dan menurut kami hal itu bisa kami kerjakan bareng dengan Alex Media. Jadi sejak itu kami berencana untuk melakukan program bersama Alex Media. Nah, bicara tentang impian saya terhadap Badan Bahasa, karena saya mencintai lembaga ini hampir 27 tahun loh saya bekerja di Badan Bahasa. Tentu saya ingin lembaga ini semakin lebih berjaya, lebih baik lagi, dan terutama bagi para peneliti bahasa dan sastra. Regenerasi itu perlu, karena menjadi peneliti sekarang tidak semudah dalam tanda kutip kami di masa lalu. Persyaratan-persyaratannya semakin sulit dan ini menjadi tantangan bagi generasi berikutnya. Saya berharap teman-teman yang lebih junior dari kami tetap bersemangat untuk menjadi peneliti, meskipun itu tidak mudah sekarang, tapi jika kita mencintai pekerjaan kita sebagai peneliti tentunya pasti teman-teman tidak akan menyerah pada persyaratan-persyaratan itu. Dan mudah-mudahan Badan Bahasa sebagai satu-satunya lembaga yang mengurusi kebahasaan dan kesastraan di Indonesia semakin berdaya dan kekayaan budaya kita salah satunya terletak pada kekayaan bahasa daerah yang sangat banyak itu, sekitar 700, hampir 700 kalau di pemetaan kami baru 600, kurang lebih 699, maaf kalau saya keliru, 700 lah ya. Nah ini perlu keseriusan untuk menghadapi masa-masa yang akan datang, termasuk sastranya tentu. Nah itulah harapan saya terhadap lembaga tercinta ini.
In these difficult times, even as we are sequestered in our homes, unable to travel as we did, nor meet socially or on business, JLF, the Jaipur Literature Festival, are delighted to collaborate with Frankfurt BookFest Digital. They have followed the age-old adage, the show must go on. For what is the world without literature and the arts? Today, our session on Brave New World is COVID and the arts, and it explores the resilience and innovation from the arts to the isolation and extreme disruptions of the pandemic. Writers, artists, and book lovers speak of responding to unforeseen challenges and the creativity and solidarity that rose to the fore through these difficult times. Our speakers today include Dr. Shashi Tharoor, an author, politician, and former international civil servant. Dr. Tharoor straddles several worlds of experience, including presently serving the third term of the Lok Sabha as a member of India's parliament, representing the Thiruvananthapuram constituency. He has previously served as Minister of State for Human Resource Development and Minister of State for External Affairs in the Government of India. He currently chairs the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information and Technology. Dr. Tharoor, welcome. And thank you for taking time out. How has the pandemic impacted your public life and your inner world as a writer?
The COVID pandemic has been a rough time for many of us, stifling our lifestyles, making it impossible for writers to attend literary festivals, to give talks, to meet people, and to pursue their lives and in the normal way that they've usually done these things. But at the same time, if one could find it in oneself to focus during these deprivations, it was actually an excellent time for creativity. Because what many of us found ourselves doing, and I certainly can vouch for this, is to use the time of the cancelled meetings, the cancelled journeys and trips that couldn't be made, the cancelled social occasions, and use that time to put finger to keyboard and pen to paper. In my case, I was able to complete one book and write the bulk of another. The first one, a somewhat light-hearted romp through 53 words that I was fascinated by, with anecdotes, their etymology, their usage, was called Tharoorosaurus for Penguin India. And it's already out and racing reasonably well up the bestseller charts. And then my magnum opus on nationalism. I'm not sure that without the COVID pandemic, I would have found the time to do the extensive research, writing and rewriting required to get that book into shape. But it will be out in November from Aleph Book Company under the title The Battle of Belonging. So a productive pandemic lockdown phase for me, as elements of the unlocking have progressed in India, Parliament has resumed, my work has picked up pace, and even social obligations are slowly re-entering my life. I'm pleased to say that I have some creative experience to look back upon and a couple of books to show for it.
Thank you, Dr. Tharoor. Please stay safe and thank you for being on the show. As you know, the Frankfurt Book Fair and JLF is deeply appreciative of your joining us today. Our next speaker, Namita Gokhale, is an award-winning writer, publisher, and festival director. She is the author of 19 books, including 10 works of fiction. Gokhale is a founder and co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival. She is also one of the founder directors of Yatra Books, a publishing house specialized in translation. Namita, thank you for joining us. Tell us, has there been an upshot, if any, brought about by this pandemic, not just for you as a writer, but for the world?
We at JLF have discovered an entire new digital vocabulary. It's been a year of despair, and yet 2020 has also been a year of new doors and windows opening, of new technologies, new platforms, ways to connect, and to bring together a synergy of image, word, and text that brings the narratives of our times into our homes and hearts. So here is to the brave new world, which we are on the very brink of.
Thank you, Namita, for joining us in your favorite book fair. I hope we'll be able to travel back to Frankfurt together next year. Our next speaker, Marcus de Sotoy, is the Simoini Professor for the Public Understanding of Science and Professor of Mathematics at the University of Oxford. He is the author of 6 books, including the recent The Creativity Code. He has presented numerous radio and television programs, including a 4-part TV series for the BBC called The Story of Math. He received an OBE for services to science in the 2010 New Year's Honours List and was made a Fellow of the Royal Society in 2016. Marcus, has the pandemic accelerated innovation through the digital world, and how have you coped with these very difficult times?
Lockdown here in London certainly felt like it was knocking me off my tracks. So I decided I should put myself on perhaps a new set of tracks. So I decided to start learning Sanskrit. This was partly motivated by the fact that I had this idea to do a new project to write a play about one of my favourite mathematical characters, André Weil, French mathematician, who spent some time in India and was very obsessed with the Bhagavad Gita. So I thought to get into character, he'd learnt Sanskrit and enjoyed reading the Bhagavad Gita, that perhaps in order to write about this character, I would spend a bit of time learning Sanskrit, reading bits of the Bhagavad Gita, and that actually helped me to make this character and write a play. And then I thought, actually, given the pandemic has closed many theatres, perhaps a crazy time to be writing a play. So I then spent some time trying to readapt it and write it as a film script. So it's still a project that's growing in development, but lockdown kind of put me on a new set of tracks, and that was in some sense quite exciting.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Stay safe, stay masked. Our next speaker is K.R. Meera. She's a writer and winner of the Kendra and Kerala Sahitya Academy Awards, and her novel Arachar has sold around 150,000 copies, and its translation Hangwoman was shortlisted for the DSC Prize. Her work includes The Poison of Love, The Gospel of Judas, The Unseeing Idol of Light, Yellow is the Color of Longing, and The Angel's Beauty Spots. Here, Meera, tell us, many writers and artists have found it so difficult to be productive during COVID-19. They've had to juggle with their personal time and their space and adapt to the routine in this, really problematic world, including all the chores that you have to do. How have you coped in this time?
In the beginning of the lockdown, I was not much worried because I had already planned 3 books in 2020, and I thought this is the perfect time to finish them. But as days passed and as the exodus of migrant laborers started from the cities to the villages in India, I realized that it is going to be more difficult than I thought. So I decided to write every day, because as I grow old, these things happening around me affect me very deeply. So I have been writing every day for the past 6 months, and I have finished 2 books. One is a short novel, the other one is considerably long with about 56 chapters. But I continue to write because that's the only way I can stay emotionally stable in these weird times. This pandemic has taught me 2 lessons. One is that we need to be socially and emotionally connected to our surroundings, to the people around us, to survive. Secondly, we need some form of art for that connection. At the center of resilience, there will be one book or a story or some form of art for sure. Look at the increasing number of online art classes and book reviews going around us. At the center of my resilience is my writings, my books, and I write to stay sane, to stay emotionally stable, and to rejuvenate. Thank you.
Thank you, K.R. Meera, and hopefully you keep writing and stay resilient and stay anchored. And in your writing, anchor us all and make sense of our times. Thank you. Our next speaker is Kanishk Gupta. a literary agent, writer, and publishing commentator, best known for his ongoing series for Scroll.in called Publishing and the Pandemic. He's the founder of Writer's Side, the largest literary agency and consultancy in South Asia. He's been credited for single-handedly popularizing literary representation in the subcontinent. His first novel was longlisted for the Asian Booker Prize in 2009 and was published by a major Indian press in 2010. Kanishk, how has your work as an agent been affected? Have people been writing, have writers been writing and sending you their work even in the midst of this time? Have they made sense of what's happening around us? So is this basically work that was already in progress and they've been able to complete it given the hiatus in our lives? Tell us how you have been able to cope with the pandemic.
As far as I can see, this fraught and rather unprecedented period has been characterized by three features. The first being disruption. The disruption has been very immense and pervasive, and it hasn't spared any publishing house or division processes of publishing, be it editorial, sales, marketing, distribution. However, this disruption has led to a lot of innovation in publishing, and I was quite pleasantly surprised as well as pleased to see how publishing houses in India, big, medium, small, were able to transition from offline to online, and they have been able to maintain a high level of productivity and efficiency despite not having access to a lot of things physically. The third feature of the pandemic and its impact on publishing in particular, again, is something which is very positive, and that's resilience. I have, for the last 6 to 7 months, been curating a fairly ambitious series on publishing for Scroll. The whole idea behind the series was to capture the voices, the stories, and the tribulations and challenges of different stakeholders in publishing, be it publishers, authors, agents, freelancers, booksellers. And one thing I noticed in all these stories was the reluctance to give up, to shut shop, to move on. People have been very resilient, and I think this is what is the most heartening part of publishing at a time like this.
Kanik, thank you so much, and may you continue this brilliant series that you've started. I've been reading them regularly, and they're so beautifully curated and written. So may you continue. More power to your pen. Our next speaker is Urvashi Butalia, feminist writer and publisher. She co-founded Kali for Women, India's first feminist publishing house. And when Kali closed down in 2003, she set up Zuban, a feminist publishing house of which she is now director. She has had a long involvement in the women's movement in India and writes and publishes widely on issues related to women and gender. Her best-known published work is the award-winning history of partition titled The Other Side of Silence, Voices from the Partition of India. She's currently completing a new non-fiction work on the life of a trans woman. Urvashi, at the best of times, niche publishing has been so difficult, both in terms of financial resources and, of course, in distribution. And you and Zuban have always struggled. Has the pandemic thrown up new solutions?
The pandemic and the lockdown have changed things a lot for all of us. For me personally, as a woman, a publisher, a writer, and for me professionally as a publisher. I mean, being at home 24/7 you have much more time to think and perhaps do or catch up on the things that you were not able to do earlier. So for me specifically, I have always abandoned my writing or given it a secondary place, and it's given me a little time to catch up with that. But in terms of our publishing, we have also had to rethink, because to be without physical books, to not be able to sell a book or produce a book, that's a death knell for a publisher. So how do you keep books alive? And how do you understand people's reading patterns? And how do you then make the move that we have always talked about but never done, that is to the digital? How do you make that move meaningfully? So one of the things we did in Zuban was to start putting all our books up as ebooks, so that the entire backlist also comes alive again. That's the first step. And I think many publishers are doing this. And I think for us, the next step is, how can you take the digital further? And how can you actually face the reality that the world of print publishing may be forever changed by this? Perhaps reduced. It won't entirely disappear, but maybe the scale will become smaller. Maybe we'll have to think differently. So that challenge has been both very exciting and sometimes worrying, because really you don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you, Urvashi, and thank you and Zuban for bringing out these beautiful pieces of writing and having us, the reader, understand the many different voices of women. Our last speaker today is Anant Padmanabhan, CEO of HarperCollins India, responsible for the HarperCollins and Collins Learning divisions in India. He joined HarperCollins in 2015, and over a career spanning 2 decades, Anant has extensively experience in developing sales, distribution, and marketing strategy in publishing. Anant Padmanabhan, kids and their parents have been locked in, not necessarily happily, and someone out there has thrown away the key. How have you been able to address the issue as a publisher? Have you been able to get kids' books across, the academic books? And how have you brought new writing out in this very difficult time?
This pandemic has taught us a lot of things, including to conduct our business almost entirely using a screen and a computer. If you set aside the fact that all of us have been at home since almost the middle of March, this has been a period of extraordinary creativity, best ever yet, if you ask me. We've had to think about a lot of things, and the fundamentals are how do you continue publishing very good books, and how do you make sure readers are able to discover new books, buy new books in a period of lockdown when physical bookstores are not open and almost everything is online. How do you replicate the idea of discoverability, of discovering new voices, new books, and also making sure that the best books, the comfort of a good book, your backlist also sells and gets to readers. In India, HarperCollins are also an education publisher. Over 5 million kids use Collins textbooks. We had to migrate, and all the kids have been at home since the lockdown. So we had to migrate our entire education catalog online and create new models and platforms for teachers and educators, for parents and for school kids, so that the education is seamless. And the innovation in online meant that you could load up a bit of entertainment in our learning process and in the education process. It's been a period when we've thought about how, in a market like India, where books were largely physical and ebooks were small, we've been able to double our ebook sales. We've been able to increase our audio sales because people leveraged the digital medium and the fact that they were at home to discover all new formats of books. A lot of our authors have also managed to use this time to finish books. We've received extraordinary submissions in this period. And I think the focus is that the world has changed. It's not going to be the one that we are used to. And we have to think about every aspect of how we publish and what's going to come up in the future.
Thank you, Anant Padmanabhan. We can only hope that this too shall pass. And in its passing, we will collectively emerge more resilient and with greater appreciation of our space, of our environment, and the belief that art matters. Thank you, Frankfurt Book Fair, Jürgen Boos, Claudia Kaiser, and Aljana Albert from the GBO India. Stay safe, stay masked, and we promise to return in 2021 to the Frankfurt Book Fair.
Hello, greetings and welcome to Bumi Langit panels. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Frankfurt Book Fair committee for inviting us and allowing us to have this amazing experience. Today, we'll talk about our company and our products. I'm Eki, editor from Bumi Langit Comics. And Bumi Langit is an entertainment IP company from Indonesia. We have thousands of libraries of intellectual property that we want to develop into many kinds of entertainment products. So today we will talk about one of those characters. We call him Gundala. Gundala is a superhero from Indonesia and he was created by Hasmi in 1969. So it's 50 years ago and it was started as a comic book series. Pak Hasmi, as we call him, already published 23 titles of Gundala. Now we try to revive these characters, these well-beloved characters, like almost everybody in Indonesia know him, in form of new media, like movies and new comic book. Along with me today, I will invite our friends, is Yuniarto from Bumi Langit Comics, and Oya Sujiwo as the writer of Gundala comic, and Iman Syalubis, the production manager for Bumi Langit Studio, and of course, the dynamic duo that make Gundala movie happen, Joko Anwar the director and Abimana Arya Satya as the Gundala himself. If you want to know more about these characters, about how we develop this classic masterpiece from Indonesian legacy, stay tuned and let's join the show.
Gue mau beli komik Gundala movie adaptation ya. Gundala Destiny.
Launching nih, launching. Yuk sama-sama.
Keren, happy, awesome, dan banyak benefit yang bisa kita dapatkan di harga Bumi Langit. Oh keren banget ini, kita sudah punya yang harga punya sketsanya dari Gundala. Kemudian hari ini kita dapat yang versi bahasa Inggrisnya Destiny, lengkap bahasanya, itu harus dipunya, wajib.
Kita dapatkan komik Gundala Destiny English version. Saya beli toko buku. Di toko buku. Yang dekat atau yang jauh juga ada.
Hi Frankfurt Book Fair, greetings. Right now I would like to introduce you to our company, Bumi Langit. Established in 2003, Bumi Langit marked the milestone in the revival of the superheroes-based comic storytelling in Indonesia. Bumi Langit is a family to many original artists spanning from the early years until now, as well as to loyal fans who appreciate our remarkable arts. Bumi Langit is the leading character-based entertainment company in Indonesia that manages unrivaled library of 1,100 characters featured in comics published in the last 60 years. The strength of the characters is not simply based on their popularity, but the rich comic stories behind each of the characters. Our characters library is mainly categorized into two universes. The superheroes universe is a universe consisting of over than 300 characters and 110 related comic titles published and sold. More than 2 million copies of these comics have been sold with 10 million estimated readers. The most prominent characters include Gundala, the most popular superhero in Indonesia, and Sri Asih, the first ever superhero in Indonesia dated back to 1954. The second category, the Warriors universe, is equally extraordinary. Spearheaded by its two leading heroes, The Blind from Phantom Cave, and Mandala, the library has more than 200 characters with 50 titles of comics created. More than 1.5 million copies of these comics had been sold with 10 million estimated readers. The Blind from Phantom Cave remains to be the character in Indonesia with the most appearances in electronic media, with 8 nationwide movies and 21 miniseries in 2 national television networks. As an entertainment company, Bumi Langit main businesses are in comics publishing, movie and TV series production, merchandise production, and licensing. In achieving our goals and objectives, we will embrace any form of partnership with credible companies. Innovation and creativity are the center of everything we do in order to deliver the best entertainment products and experience to our consumers. I'm Iman Chalubis. See you.
Tahun 2019 ini adalah 50 tahun Gundala. Gundala adalah jagoan ciptaan Hasmi, komikus senior kita. Gundala diilhami dari kisah Ki Ageng Selo, sosok sakti yang bisa menangkap petir. Berasal dari bahasa Jawa, Gundolo, yang artinya petir. Sancaka jadi Gundala setelah ia tersambar petir. Gundala bisa bangkitkan kekuatan petir dari tubuhnya dan bisa mengendalikan petir. Gundala berhadapan dengan musuh bebuyutan, yaitu Pengkor dan Gazul. Gundala juga punya cerita cinta dengan jagoan lain bernama Merpati. Aku Zaki, yuk tonton film Gundala.
Hello, and I want to tell the story of Gundala from its beginning. Gundala was first created by Hasmi in 1969. The first comic has the title of Gundala Putra Petir. The meaning is Gundala Son of Lightning. And it went through 23 volumes until it ended in 1982. And since its first appearance, Gundala has gained lots of fans and readers. The comic tells the story about a genius engineer called Sancaka. He obsessed to invent an entire lightning serum. Once he got accident, he struck by lightning, only to find out that he was actually adopted by Grons, the king of Kingdom of Lightning. Grons then gave Sancaka a magic necklace that could transform him into a superhuman being. Gundala, he was given a lightning-based power as his primary superpower. After reconcile conflict among two kingdoms, Gundala was given a secondary superpower. Now he can run as fast as Typhoon. Gundala is also known for his intuition in solving complicated crime cases. Now, along with Gramedia publishers, Bumi Langit has published the remastered edition of the original series of Gundala by Hasmi. So, old fans and new readers can experience the excitement that the readers 50 years ago. Among new titles of Gundala that are developed by Bumi Langit, after its first decade run, which focused on restoring Indonesian classic comics, the next challenge is to face the reality that there's a big gap between the classic comic readers and the new generation of comic readers nowadays. At this point, Bumi Langit invited new generation of comic makers to fill the gap. This team revisited and rethought how these thousands of legendary characters can be still relevant to the daily life. First, we have to place all existing characters in the same ground. We had to find the root in our own history, Indonesian cultures as well, momentum as a starting point. The eruption of Toba Mountain, for example, the greatest eruption ever had been chosen. Then we drew a timeline through the ages of history to link all the characters. Each one has its own origin and interlinked with each other. Then secondly, we have to bring that timeline to our present now. how these characters that originate at their point of history can be brought here and now to face today's problems, the same problem faced by our generation today, so the readers can have same common ground and relate to the characters.
Maybe some international publisher will interested in the comics, so good luck and go international.
Hello everyone, I will tell us a little bit about Gundala Comics, the movie companion at this time. In Gundala, we have to deliver the character and the story to the media that completely different with their original comic form. There are social media, digital comic apps, online marketplace, over-the-top channels, and any form of media in the future. As Gundala filmed to widescreen, the comic also made to be its companion. Audience can see a new point of view which cannot be told in movie form or in comic form. The motion and sound from movie match with narration, inner voice, and the multi-direction flat plane from comic. This intermedia storytelling from movie to comic and comic to movie bring their own magic to each other, make a new experience to both viewers and readers. The Gundala movie companion titled story is about two men, Sancaka and Pengkor. They both lost their parents at their early age. They both had an accident. Pengkor half burned in fire, Sancaka struck by lightning. They both then lived on street until fate met them together as nemesis. In this comic, we can see their both perspectives side by side. The story tells them in different timeline, but looks like happen at the same time from panel to panel, back to back. We can see their tragic past life and how they became what they are now, each in their own side and face against each other. Both stand with their own idealism to change the world, but in different paths. We also can see the stories about Pengkor's children. Yes, in movie we can see the orphans, Pengkor's troops of assassins. Each one of them is told in separate chapter, but still linked to each other. These stories are not shown in the movies, so this comic give perspective from the sides are not seen on the movie. That's why you cannot miss the comic surely along with the movie.
And of course, all of this plan wouldn't be happen without our great partners. So I would like to introduce you to another friend of mine, Mr. Agung from Gramedia Publisher, especially the MNC Colony Gramedia, that already been so wonderful partner and wonderful friend in publishing our comics and distributing it to readers in Indonesia.
Oke, nama saya Agung, saya dari penerbit MNC Gramedia, salah satu penerbit di bawah grup Gramedia Publisher, sebuah kelompok usaha di bawah kelompok Kompas Gramedia. MNC Gramedia awalnya adalah kami fokus pada penerbitan komik-komik. Kemudian di tahun 2003 kami mulai menerbitkan komik lokal untuk menghimpun semua komikus-komikus yang berasal dari dalam negeri Indonesia untuk kami terbitkan secara cetak pada saat itu. Kemudian kenapa kami menjalin kerjasama dengan Bumi Langit? Karena didasari oleh cita-cita kami pada awal berdiri itu adalah 2003 kami ingin membangun memajukan komik lokal Indonesia yang pada saat itu sebenarnya kita sedang digempur atau booming dengan komik-komik dari luar. Jadi saya pikir kita punya kesamaan dalam sisi cita-cita untuk memajukan komik lokal Indonesia.
Belajar buat ngurus hidup lo sendiri. Karena kalau lo ikut campur masalah orang lain, hidup lo bakal susah.
Nggak ada yang bisa diharapkan di Jakarta ini, San. Ntar juga satu negara hancur pada bunuh-bunuhan. Lihat aja dah.
Gak ada gunanya hidup kalau nggak peduli dan cuman mikirin diri sendiri.
Aku bukan jagoan. Aku juga nggak tahu gimana cara tadi melawan mereka.
Karena kamu kuat.
Kamu nggak apa-apa?
Panggil saja saya Pengkor. Saya bukan siapa-siapa.
Itu yang saya suka dari kamu. Karena kamu tahu harus setia kepada siapa.
Harapan bagi rakyat adalah candu. Dan candu itu bahaya. Rakyat tidak sebodoh yang Anda kira. Rakyat harus terus bodoh kalau kalian mau dunia aman.
My childhood is all about taking a peek at cinema windows and comic book rentals. And stories from Indonesian classic comics have been filling my imagination since then, with Gundala playing a big role in that. So when Bumi Langit kicked off their effort in building Indonesian superhero universe started with comics, I am more than happy to get on board. Bumi Langit Cinematic Universe is an expansion of this big storytelling universe inspired by classic masterpieces of Indonesian comics since the early 50s. Now, different characters from different authors and different titles share one magnificent universe, and Bumi Langit Cinematic Universe will be adapting these storylines. Today, 1 year after Gundala received widely positive reviews, 1.7 million viewers in Indonesia alone, screened in prestigious international film festivals, and also available in digital streams and Blu-ray discs worldwide, we are moving forward. 7 movies are being prepared. Comes from the era of Jawara, or the warrior, and the era of patriot. We have Sri Asi, Virgo and the Sparklings, Goda Mentira, Sibuta dari Gua Hantu, Mandala, Gundala Putra Petir, and Patriot. Aside from these main characters on the titles, we will also have many appearances from characters in Bumi Langit universe. All the establishing roles are done, and development is in progress to weave the thread nicely from the first movie to the ultimates in the future.
Hello, I'm Abimana Aresatya. When it comes to Gundala, one of the most famous character in Indonesia fictional world, it's sure a big challenge for me and for Bumi Langit in general. Gundala is 50 years old, known by generation before me, but we have another challenge. To reintroduce this awesome character to Generation Z population. In developing Gundala for this modern time, we try to be faithful to the original concept, the adaptation we made to the character, and the origin, while might seem different in the surface, but we keep all the bedrock from the origin story introduced by Hasmi 50 years ago. The appearance will be familiar, yet refreshing for the new generation. This is the things that I learned from 3 years in pre-production, filming, promotion, and interaction with all the fans of Gundala. Gundala is bigger than one comic title, one movie, or one actor. Gundala, with the values he brings, his pursuit of justice and curiosity, his connection to family, and his relationship with what happened in the society is a reflection of us. We can put ourselves in part of Gundala story, whether to strive against obstacle or to use our power for something bigger than ourselves. Gundala is the first patriot Bumi Langit universe that will usher more hero. Gundala is us.